Well, one of Britain's most successful ever Paralympic athletes, Baroness Grey-Thompson, is with me in the studio. And we're joined by the internet from Bonn by the IPC Director of Media, Craig Spence. Craig, how big is the shortfall and how did you not see it coming?
Well, we didn't see it coming because we've been working with the organising committee for 7 years and the budget has always been there to pay for the Paralympic Games. It's only in the last few weeks when we've arrived in Rio have we seen the full extent of the problem. And rather than pointing the finger of blame, what we've tried to do is find solutions to the problems. And that's been bringing in extra revenues and cutting costs where we can.
Right, but how much is missing? I mean, is it beyond the wit of the Olympic and Paralympic community to come up with the money?
I don't really want to go into the exact figures. All I want to do is talk about the solutions. And we brought in 150 million reals from the mayor this week, and there's 100 million reals coming in from the federal government state-owned companies. So we're bringing revenues in, and our priority now is to get the games on because that's what the athletes who've been training for 4 years deserve.
Well, you're sounding very positive, given 10 countries might not be able to get there. I mean, this is a scandal.
It is a scandal, but we're very positive because we know the impact that the Paralympic Games can have as the world's #1 sporting event for driving social inclusion. What we're doing is we're working with those 10 countries at the moment who are in danger of not making the Games, and if need be, the IPC will pay for them to get to the Games until their grant gets there. So we want all 165 countries on the start line ready on the 7th of September.
So is that a guarantee that every country that wants to send athletes will be able to send them?
Well, the grant should be paid hopefully next week, and the 10 countries who have come to us and said, look, we're going to have some trouble here getting to Rio because the grants are so late. We're working with them to A, find funding from their governments, and B, where need be, we will pay for them to get to the Games. So I'm optimistic that we'll have all 165 countries there.
Let me just bring in Grey-Thompson. I mean, this is a very sad state of affairs just days before the Games begin.
It is, and you know, on the back of London 2012, which I'm biased because I was kind of worked on it, it was an amazing Games, and I think we'd expected Rio to be a step up. You know, they've got fantastic swimming and athletics teams. They'd always seemed hugely positive about the Paralympic Games, and I think, you know, for me, the fact that IPC have chosen to go public at this point, it's about pushing back on Rio and saying, let's do what we can to deliver the Games that the athletes deserve.
But the world would never allow this to happen to the World Cup in Rio or the Olympic Games in Rio. Why is it that the Paralympics is allowed to be scaled back?
I think when they originally bid for the Games, you know, economically and politically, they were in a very different place. And just all the delays meant that they started, I think, using the budget from the Paralympics. There wasn't that kind of protection around it to make sure that these Games would be delivered. I mean, if I'm being very selfish from a British team point of view, we're probably luckier than most that there's enough protection around the team to mitigate some of these issues and make sure our athletes can compete the best they can. What we're not going to see is some of the lots of added extras that we had in London and to some extent were there in Beijing as well.
Do you think this is the right strategy by the IPC? I mean, not even to tell us how much is missing. I mean, if it's a matter of millions, you'd have thought the world can come up with that.
I think it is the right strategy from the IPC because they wouldn't have gone public unless they had to. The amount of money, I think, at this stage is less important than making sure the athlete experience is right. You know, and actually this is where Britain, America, some of the other more developed countries can step up and help out. We have to get those 10 countries there and we have to make sure the competition is as good as it can be. You know, athletes are resourceful, you know, they don't live in 5-star hotels all the time. You know, they will make the best of it, but it's not what anybody would have wanted at this stage of the Games. The other thing is, in 19 days, they can do a huge amount. And so what I'm hoping is that, you know, Rio and the Brazilian government will really, really push back on this and deliver a better Games.
I mean, Craig Spence, you clear how this has happened. I mean, where has the money gone?
Well, like I say, we've been working with the organising committee for 7 years now and reviewing their budgets constantly. It's only in the last 2 weeks that this money has disappeared. Now, post-Games, we'll ask the questions on where the money has disappeared. But what we need to do now is not worry about what's happened, but plan for the future. And we need to put on the best possible Games that we can in the circumstances that we currently face. And that's what we're determined to do.
But is it just a question of competence or is there a question of malfeasance here?
Well, as I say, our focus is not pointing the finger of blame now and looking at the issues. We've got so much to sort in 19 days' time that our priority is to bring in extra revenues to the organising committee, make cuts where we can, and put on the best possible game afterwards. best possible games we can, and then after the games, look at what's gone wrong here so that it doesn't happen again and that our athletes aren't affected.
Craig Spence, thank you very much. I mean, this sets back the Paralympic movement, doesn't it? There's no doubt.
It's not what any of us would have wanted at this point in time. I think if you're looking forward, the fact there's a huge number of people from the Tokyo Organising Committee will be in Rio. They need to take note, because just the fact that we're talking about this during the Olympics, that has never happened before. This kind of media coverage, the fact that the British public care, the fact the media care, means that something has to be done differently for the future.